Fourth Way by P.D. Ouspensky, Chapter 3. In this system, which studies man as an incomplete being, particular stress is laid on self-study, and in this sense, the idea of self-study is necessarily connected with the idea of improvement. As we are, we can use very little of our powers, but study develops them. Self-study begins with a study of states of consciousness. Man has the right to be self-conscious, even such as he is, without any change. Objective consciousness requires many changes in him, but self-consciousness he can have now. Yet he has not got it, although he thinks he has. How has this illusion started? Why does man ascribe self-consciousness to himself? He ascribes it to himself because it is his legitimate state. If he is not self-conscious, he lives below his legitimate level. He uses only 1/10 of his powers. But as long as he ascribes to himself that this is a possibility, he will not work for the attainment of this state. Next, the question arises, why does man not possess self-consciousness if he has all the necessary arrangements and organs for it? The reason for this is his sleep. It is not easy to awake, for there are many causes of sleep. The question is often asked, do all people possess the possibility of awaking? No, not at all. Very few people are capable of realizing that they are asleep and of making necessary efforts to awake. First, a man must be prepared. He must understand his situation. Second, he must have enough energy and sufficiently strong desire to be able to get out. In all this strange combination that is man, the one thing that can be changed is consciousness. But first he must realize that he is a machine. So, as to be able to tighten some screws, loosen others, and so on, he must study. That is where the possibility of change begins. When he realizes that he is a machine, and when he knows something about his machine, he will see that his machine can work in different conditions of consciousness, and so will try to give it better conditions. We are told in this system that man has the possibility of living in 4 states of consciousness, but that as he is, he lives in only 2. We know that our functions are divided into 4 categories. We study 4 categories of functions in 2 states of consciousness. At the same time, we realize that glimpses of self-consciousness happen, and that what prevents us from having more of these glimpses is the fact that we do not remember ourselves, that we are asleep. The first thing necessary in a serious study of oneself is to understand that consciousness has degrees. You must remember that you do not pass from one state of consciousness to another, but that they are added to one another. This means that if you are in a state of sleep, when you are awake, the state of relative consciousness or waking sleep is added to the state of sleep. If you become self-conscious, this is added to the state of waking sleep. And if you acquire the state of objective consciousness, this is added to the state of self-consciousness. There are no sharp transitions from one state to another state. Why not? Because each state consists of different layers. As in sleep, we can be more asleep or less asleep. So in the state in which we are now, you can be nearer to self-consciousness or further from it. The second thing necessary in a serious study of oneself is the study of functions by observing them, learning to divide them in the right way, learning to recognize each one separately. Each function has its own profession, its own specialty. They must be studied separately and their differences clearly understood, remembering that they are controlled by different centers of minds. It is very useful to think about our different functions or centers and realize that they are quite independent. We do not realize that there are 4 independent beings in us, 4 independent minds. We always try to reduce everything to one mind. Instinctive center can exist quite apart from other centers. Moving and emotional centers can exist without the intellectual. We can imagine 4 people living in us. The one we call instinctive is a physical man. The moving man is also a physical man, but with different inclinations. Then there is the sentimental or emotional man, and the theoretical or intellectual man. If we look at ourselves from this point of view, it's easier to see where we make the chief mistake about us, because we take ourselves as one, as always the same. We have no means of seeing centers, but we can observe functions. And the more you observe, the more material you will have. This division of functions is very important. Control of any of our faculties can only be obtained with the help of knowledge. Each function can be controlled only if we know the peculiarities and the speed of each.